All right, good morning. We're going to get started this morning with an invocation led by Pastor Jason Warner of South Park Baptist Church, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Xander Wickstrom, representing Boy Scouts Troop 111. Please stand.
Please bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, we come before you today, Father, grateful for this day. It's the day that you've made, and according to Scripture, we will rejoice in it. Father, we pray for those that will be greatly affected by the heat today. We pray for your relief and, Father, for your comfort in those situations. Father, we pray for this time together. We pray that this will be a fruitful time for this council, for the city officials, and, Father, for our city. And, Father, I do pray for this council. I pray for city officials and, Father, for the other city staff. I pray blessings over them and their families. Father, I pray a blessing over our city. And Father, I pray that we might be a city that would follow your commands, and Father, that would honor and glorify you in everything that we do. Be with us, Father, and it's in your Son's name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
May you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor, and thank you, Xander. All right, I call this meeting of the City Council to order, and I have one presentation to make down front. All right, Doctor, join me up here if you would. Dr. Allison Haley is our Employee of the Month, and we would love to learn a little bit more about you, and so I would ask the clerk to read this resolution.
Whereas Dr. Allison Haley has been a city employee for 7 years and is the lead veterinarian in the Animal Welfare Division of the Development Services Department. And whereas Dr. Haley manages the Vet Services Program within animal welfare, which includes 2 veterinarians, 7 vet assistants, and a supervisor. She is responsible for ensuring the more than 20,000 animals entering the shelter each year receive timely and appropriate medical care. And whereas in March, the shelter was faced with the difficult decision to close due to an outbreak of canine flu. Working long hours day and night, Dr. Haley headed up the efforts to contain the disease, develop treatments, and devise housing plans. And whereas Dr. Haley worked more than 60 hours the first week of planning and implementation as her team treated more than 400 dogs. And whereas Dr. Haley successfully managed this incredible workload while keeping her team's morale high during the entire closure period. And whereas Dr. Haley reopened the facility safely, continuing to minimize the spread with her efforts that helped to save hundreds of dogs' lives. And whereas Dr. Haley is a dedicated employee that spends countless hours each week ensuring that the Vet Services Program provides excellent care to the animals we serve. And whereas this council desires to recognize Dr. Allison Haley for her dedication, compassion, and commitment to the residents of the City of Oklahoma City. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Dr. Allison Haley, July 2023, South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month.
Thank you. Well, this is a resolution, so we're going to pass this real quick, and then we'll have a little chat. So why don't we get a motion and a second? Everyone cast your votes. I wish to vote aye. It's always our first vote. Takes a little while to work the kinks out. All right, passes unanimously. So everybody at City Hall is pretty familiar with what it takes to lead through a pandemic, and we have put that behind us. But it seems to me that you're living through one right now. And so I really actually can relate a little bit, and we are so grateful to what you and the team at the animal shelter have done these last few weeks and months to get us through this really, really challenging time. And I know that this sort of reflects the first wave, and we're kind of in the second wave now. But we just want to thank you, commend you, and obviously this was an opportunity to do that this morning. We'd love to hear a few thoughts from you, Dr. Haley.
I just want to say thank you to Kiwanis, and a thank you to the City Council for allowing me to be here. It's been quite an honor to serve the city, and I appreciate this recognition. I couldn't do it without the team that I have, full of volunteers, staff, and I just appreciate being here.
Very good. Let's hear it for Dr. Haley. Okay, so I have a few items on Office of the Mayor. Now we have appointments. Items B through P are appointments to the Board of Health, Civic Center Foundation, Electrical Code Review, the IMSA Board, Historic Preservation, Oklahoma City Convention and Visitors Commission, the Industrial and Cultural Facilities Trust, Oklahoma City Housing Authority, the Mary Gardens Foundation, the Park Commission, the Planning Commission, Post-Employment Benefits Trust, the Redevelopment Authority, the Urban Renewal Authority, and the Zoo Trust. We could take those appointments, items B through P, with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 7-1. And then item 3Q, and we're working from the amended agenda, and I want to explain this a little bit. So this is a proposed ordinance change affecting the zoning and planning code, but not really the substantive part of it, the part of it that relates to the membership of the Planning Commission itself. So as you probably just saw through my appointments, I have 58 boards that I appoint to, and it's really taken 5 years as mayor to sort of dig into all that and really understand all the idiosyncrasies of them all. And recently, I became more intimately familiar with our Planning Commission ordinance, which, of course, the Planning Commission is probably our most important commission in many ways. It's certainly the one that I think each of us puts the most thought into as we make the appointments to each of those 9 positions. There is a somewhat, to this point, at least to me, unknown requirement that a member of the Urban Design Commission also serve on the Planning Commission. As far as I'm aware, this has never been accomplished, and so we are in essentially perpetual violation of our own ordinance. And I really can't find any policy reason why that is necessary, and I also find it to be highly impractical for a variety of reasons I could go into if you'd like. But I brought this to staff in the last few weeks. A simple deletion of that requirement, as well as staff suggested then to delete some not really requirements, but some other language that you'll see, of course, in the proposal there. But it's all very limited, just basically a clause or two, and nothing will really change in the actual operations of the Planning Commission because as I said, we've never really had a member of the Urban Design Commission on the Planning Commission, despite the requirement, and I think there's a lot of good reasons for why that has never happened and likely never will, whether we adopt this change or not. So with that, ordinance changes are, of course, on 3 meetings as per a previously adopted resolution, and that would be the case here, and I would submit it to you for your consideration. But first, any questions or comments? Please.
Mayor, do we have any sense of history here when this item found itself introduced as part of planning?
I don't know. That is probably discoverable, but I don't know if we know it off of the top of our heads. Urban Design Commission has presumably existed for less time than the Planning Commission has, and so my guess is somebody thought when they created the Urban Design Commission that that would be a good crossover. I'll suggest that I have learned in my growing intimacy with our 58 boards that I make appointments to, that there's lots of great ideas about the membership, and you can see the intent of what people were thinking when they drafted these ordinances, but they are often highly impractical. It makes sense. Everything that's in, there's not a single thing that you would say, oh, that's a terrible idea, but trying to find volunteers to do these things, especially in this case, to do a board that meets for like 5 hours every 2 weeks, and then serve on another board, the Urban Design Commission, it's just very highly unrealistic. And I find there's a lot of sort of unrealistic expectations in our board requirements. I'm not necessarily about to bring you a raft of those by any means. This one was the most glaring because it was a requirement. It had never been fulfilled. It didn't seem to have a clear justification. It's a major board that we have, and I just wanted to clean that up. I didn't like the idea that we would continue to be violating our ordinance, and I saw this as the more more likely path to escaping that situation.
I was rereading yesterday an 2016 article Steve Lackmeyer wrote, like a lengthy one, that I seem to recall kind of catching fire at the time. It was about how sustainable our growth is, and it was about sprawl. And it was, interviews from Assistant City Manager McDermott, then Mayor Cornett, you name it, lots of interviews. I'm curious, I'm just trying to figure out why someone would have thought it was a good idea to put this position with planning. And I can't help but wonder, having read that article, so I had forgotten we didn't have a planning, a plan code, like a plan, like a zoning plan, the way we have the comprehensive plan right now that we more recently adopted. We hadn't had one since 1977. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That's what the article said. So from 77 until 2016 was when we did that work. And in the 70s was when, Mercy moved from downtown to Memorial. Memorial starts coming into existence with a lot of its development. So a lot of Ward 8 doesn't exist, it seems to me, until those moves. Do you wonder, because I had read your email, do you wonder if someone put that requirement with planning because as the city started sprawling, when one reads the article, it becomes clear that a lot of services within the urban core, a lot of the design within the urban core, it just became very haphazard. Like the services went down, trash, transit, lack of building sidewalks. Of course, bike lanes weren't even a conversation back then. And then there was just kind of a haphazard way in which the city let developers develop within the urban core. We're riding that ship in a lot of ways now. And so having read that article, having read your proposal, part of me can't help but wonder, and that's why I asked if we had a sense of history, I can't help but wonder if putting the urban design person there on the planning was a way to signal to planning, we need to be more intentional about what we do in the urban core as it relates to planning. Do you follow me
I
here?
follow you,
Okay.
and I would respectfully say I don't think so, and here's why. Urban design, obviously, without definition or explanation, people might wonder, well, what are they designing, what does that even mean? But as you know, urban design relates specifically to approvals of aesthetic changes to structures in the urban design district, which, by the way, that in and of itself is a very specific definition that's actually different than 4 other design districts that we have. And so what I would say is I don't really see the connection to sprawl or planning in the sense that you're talking about. This is about, your sign on your building or the color of your building or whether you tear a building down, It's very aesthetic related is what Urban Design Commission does. And I would also point out, as I sort of alluded to a moment ago, there are actually 5 design commissions covering different geographic areas of the city. So you've got Bricktown design, you've got Stockyards design, you've got Riverfront design, you have downtown design. And urban design is a bit of a catch-all for like the Asian District and Capitol Hill. I guess it was maybe a response to let's not have 5 more design commissions. Maybe we can throw a few of these districts in the same one. Incidentally, there's actually a proposal being worked on at planning to consolidate our design districts a little bit. That's something we may see in the next year because the 5 is already a bit much. But that's neither here nor there today. But my point being that I don't really see the connection between sprawl, which is a very real issue and certainly one that we discuss often here, and the aesthetics of a limited number of districts in the core.
I hear that. I think I would say I do see a connection because I think as the sprawl happened, there became a lack of sense of protecting the historic nature of buildings within the core. There became a let's let developers move this toward big box chain stores, these sorts of things within the core, whereas the Paseo found a way to maintain its sense of character. And now we know as its streetscape is happening and we're investing in that streetscape, voters are, and because of city council's approved funding resources there, I do see a connection there. Now, this is not to challenge what you're doing here. I'm gonna vote to.
Because there is like there's the second step. Whether it's a good idea is one thing, then is it, can it actually be applied is another thing. And that's, yeah, it's like even if I agreed with you that there was an important connection, I think we will really struggle to ever make this actually happen.
And that's what in your email was very clarifying in that sense. I do think that's tough, but I raise this right now because, and I'll talk with my planning commissioner about this. Janice is very aware of, what we need to be doing to preserve, our neighborhoods and make them more walkable, bikeable, and better connected to public transit in a way that sprawl really made that hard and thusly makes the present day job so difficult. I just wanted to make this body aware that I just don't know if that's part of the history, but it feels connected to me. So sometimes there are unintended consequences of what we do, and so I want us to make sure then that as we move forward on this item, we're making sure that our planning commission is aware that at one point in time, someone thought with whatever is maybe good intentions, I would hope they were good intentions, that this position should be there to serve a part of the city that had been truly underserved. South of the river, north of the river, east over there, west, but the urban core. So just wanted to put that out there. So again, this is not challenging what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm here, I just wanted some clarification, and then I wanted to add what I'm kind of picking up on.
All right, very thoughtful. Thank you, James. Any other comments or questions? Well, then I would love a motion to introduce the ordinance for consideration. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Thank you. This will be set for public hearing on August 1st and then a potential final hearing on August 15th. Okay, item 4, items from council. We have item 4A. This is a resolution thanking and commending retired Oklahoma City police officers for their service to the city in recognition of their efforts to develop a private security association. Councilman Stonecipher.
Yes, this item is tied to item 11L. We've got some language clarification that we still need to do on 11L. So I'm going to move to defer this today. And the one thing I would say that a lot of people have worked really hard on addressing some retiree issues of the Oklahoma City Police Department. I want to thank Mark Nelson, Don Hall, Rob Gallivan, Todd Stone, Bradley Carter, Jerry Foshi, MTI, Chief Gorley, and Paula Kelly. It's important that we honor our retirees. It's important that we remember the great service that they have given us. But at this time, I'm going to move to defer it so we can clarify some of the language in 11L, please. I'd make that motion.
And what date? Amy thinks you mean a month.
15th
of August.
Okay, so not the next meeting, but the one after that,
Mr.
August 15th.
Freeman wants the 15th.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5, City Manager reports. Mr. City Manager.
We don't have anything today except for claims and payroll, and that can be found on okc.gov.
All right, sounds great. Thank you. Item 6, Journal of Council Proceedings. We have items A and B we can take with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 7, request for uncontested continuances. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, beginning on page 14, the item that Councilman Stonecipher just referred to, item 11L, the uniform, a retired officer uniform allowance, or ordinance. We want to defer that to the 15th of August. On item 1101, this is on page 15, on unsecured structures. These items will all be stricken from the agenda. Item A, 2121 West Park Place to re-notify for additional structures. Item I, 1500 Northwest 45th Street, the owner has secured. And item J, 3252 Southwest 48th Street, the owner has secured. Then on page 15, under 11P1, this is abandoned buildings. All of these items will be stricken and the changes will be done for the exact same reasons. These are the same three that were on for unsecured structures. So item B, 2121 West Park Place, item H, 1500 Northwest 45th Street, and item I, 3252 Southwest 48th Street. And that's all the items that I have.
All right, thank you. That will be the order then. Item 8, revocable permits and events. There are none today, and so we will recess the council meeting and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. We have items A through L on that agenda. There are no presentations, and there is no executive session requested by staff. We can take-
Mayor, I
Yes.
would like to request executive sessions on items I, J, and K.
Okay.
So I would like to make that motion.
I think we probably have to do 3 votes, right? We have been, but what do we have to do?
I think you can do them all.
We could do them all at once? Okay, wonderful. All right, so then we have a motion to do executive session, basically adopting I2, J2, and K2 with
Mayor,
one
before
motion.
we vote
Yes,
on
please,
this,
of course.
I just wanted to say, I don't mind that we go into executive session. I'd just rather we wait until section 11 so that we can, because we have other executive items we have to do there anyway, so.
Yeah, and as you know, when we're in MFA, we kind of like need to sort
have
of
to
say
stop and do it.
self-contained and, yeah.
Everyone in here will have to wait while we do this. I would rather, if we could, just carry it to the end.
Because
And
these same items appear on the council agenda.
yes.
Do you have any thoughts on that? You obviously would have to vote, obviously, before an executive session
Right.
on half of it.
These, yeah, so I guess then let's just vote separately on them, if that's okay.
Okay,
And then-
on MFA, and then consider an executive session later to talk about it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so then the motion is withdrawn, and we'd entertain a motion to adopt items A through H.
Wait, I'm sorry. We're about to vote on.
We're going to do these things, 2 different votes on the MFA agenda. But the motion to go into executive session has been withdrawn.
Oh, but so.
But we'll do it later. Sorry.
So in my mind, we would go into executive session, yes, later in the agenda under items for separate consideration, but I am not comfortable voting for things that I'm not fully aware of, so I would like to just vote separately so I can vote no on these items.
I appreciate that clarification because that's actually what I was about to say, is I'd like to know what we're discussing before I vote yes or no.
Well, if you want to make the motion, we can, I can't stop you. Make a
But we're
motion to
not-
go into executive session, we can then vote on it.
As far as the discussion of this is concerned, I guess my question is, are we not able to move the OCMFA portion of this part of the agenda to the end of the agenda?
Now what?
Ideally, no, because we are in OCMFA. We go into OCMFA, we adjourn council, we come out of OCMFA. The agenda does not provide to go back into OCMFA. That's not been noticed. I would say we need to do OCMFA executive sessions while we're in OCMFA at this stage of the agenda.
Well, I would like actually for our council to speak to that, our municipal council.
So you would need for, as the mayor said, for the OCMFA to then later reconvene, and then you'd have to come back in between the executive sessions to convene then as council. So it might not actually create any efficiencies.
If y'all want to go to executive session, just make a motion and we'll vote on it.
I mean, that's what I would think makes logical sense, so that's what I would propose.
Okay. All right. So someone make a motion to, again, back where we were 2 minutes ago, to go to executive session on items I, J, and K. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Fails 4-5. Okay, so we're back on the OCMFA agenda. We would like to still vote separately, I presume?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we could take a motion to do items A through H and L as one grouping, and then we can do the other items as a second grouping, if that's agreeable. So this first motion would be for items A through H and L. Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And then this second motion under the MFA agenda would be through 4 items I, 1, J1, and K1 as a grouping. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 6-2. Okay, now we'll adjourn OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. And there we have items A through C. We can take that with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll adjourn OCPPA and reconvene as the council, where we are on item 9, the consent docket. There are no scheduled presentations, and so does any council member have anything to pull out for a separate vote or a separate discussion?
Mayor, would you remind me which items will someone be speaking on, or just say no?
We have none. We have no presentations.
Okay, item AB, I feel is very, very important.
Did you say A, B?
Apple and boy.
Got it.
Thank you. And that is it for me.
Anything else? Okay. We have some citizens who've signed up to speak, so I might sprinkle those in a little bit as well. Joy Reardon has signed up to speak on kind of a groupings of items.
Do it this way, that way I don't get shocked. Joy Reardon, 125 Northwest 9th. Basically, it's the ordinance change, rezoning stuff. As Councilman Cooper puts it, the sprawl, we need to stop because we're losing resources badly, especially with the fact that today it's supposed to be over 100 degrees. That's going to put a strain on our fire department and our EMS system. And the more we spread out, it's just going to make it exacerbate even more of that. Sorry. And the other thing is, I'll have some more later, but my biggest thing is we've got to stop the urban sprawl, because especially on hot days like this, it really taxes, it also taxes our grid, electric grid, the water grid, and everything else because of the heat and everything. It's really going to put a strain on a lot of things, and we're in the summer, and we also have to think about the people who work outside, the city workers, the firefighters, especially with the fire and everything else. I have a question for the city council. Do you know what the average temperature of a fire is? Of a home, a single family home? 3,400 degrees. Then you have the temperature outside and the humidity and everything. If we keep doing this, we're going to end up having firefighters drop dead on the job. Same way with the police department, because of their vest and everything that they've got to do. So if we could slow down on the sprawl, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. On the zoning cases, yeah. Okay, well, taking things in order, we'll come to you now, Councilman Cooper, item AB.
Yes, just wanted to hear a little bit more, and actually I wanted residents to hear a little bit more about what this Vision Zero grant is, what it is, why the city of OKC applied for it, I think is very important for residents and probably council to hear as well. So, hi.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Justin Henry with Transportation Planning in the Planning Department. Excited to tell you a little bit more about this grant that we are proceeding with. We have a kind of a quick presentation for you as well as part of that, kind of at your request. So the Safe Streets and Roads for All is an FHWA, their Federal Highway Administration, grant opportunity specifically to try to make streets safer. And that's kind of mode neutral. I mean, meaning pedestrians, bicycles, cars, all road users, trying to really increase that. So late last year, we applied for a grant opportunity for this for $800,000 with a $200,000 match, and we're successful in that. So now we get to, we've negotiated out the contract with the federal government and written an RFP. So this is kind of that next step where we get to form a committee, select consultants to help us, and really get started with that. So, just a little bit about what Vision Zero is. It started as kind of a European idea about reducing traffic fatalities, but it's been growing in the United States for about 15 years, and a lot of cities now are on their second rung. More than 45 of the largest cities in Oklahoma, or in the United States, have them now, and Oklahoma City, part of the reason we were successful is we're the second largest city that doesn't currently have one, and that was in our grant application. One of the focuses really about the plan is that it kind of embraces that humans make mistakes and trying to design your transportation system that allows for humans to make mistakes without them being fatal. So, kind of just a little bit of detail about some of the differences between traditional kind of traffic design and the Vision Zero approach is that it really tries to embrace the idea that traffic deaths are preventable, that to a large degree they're within the realm of design, and that we can kind of change some of that. It's the humans make mistakes, and that we need to design for those mistakes to be survivable. And that it's really kind of a systemic approach, not just kind of an individual area. And that not saving lives is very expensive. So just a couple of numbers real quick. We've been working with some partners at the Oklahoma State Highway Safety Office, getting a lot of data from them as we get ready to go into this plan. Between 2018 and 2021, traffic collisions actually declined by 6%, and injuries from those collisions declined by 6%, which looks like we're on a good trend, but Fatalities at the same time period increased by 34%. So even though we're having less collisions on our streets, we're having less injuries, the collisions we have are increasingly fatal, which is very problematic. There's a lot of design elements that are considered as part of Vision Zero plans, things that we tend to take a look into and see which ones will work for us and which ones won't, in what circumstances. This is just an example that's popular in Vision Zero, so hardened center lines to kind of prevent cars from getting outside their lanes at intersections. Another important element of this is the pedestrian fatalities have skyrocketed. You might have seen in kind of the news recently that in the US, pedestrian fatalities are at a 40-year high. And unfortunately, that's kind of the same story here. So, collisions for pedestrians have only increased by 17%, but the fatalities have increased by 73%. We're seeing a huge jump in pedestrian fatalities. People are being hit, and it's very difficult to survive. And one of the most important elements of that is going to be travel speeds. When we look at our collisions, we see a lot of collisions, for example, downtown, but very few fatalities because people are being hit, but at slow enough speeds that it's very survivable. We tend to see more of like our major arterial streets, a lot bigger problem with pedestrian fatalities. Just kind of one example too of kind of how studying this data will help us. When we took a look at the preliminary data, we found that from nighttime, so from dusk to dawn, only 17% of our crashes occur at that time period, but 31% of our injuries and 57% of our fatalities. So looking at some of those nighttime collisions and why are they so much more fatal, we think there's probably some correlation there with visibility, and that we really need to kind of take a deeper look at that. And that could end up recommending things like additional street lighting, reflective striping, and kind of improved signage. And then just a couple of examples of that. Something that's growing in popularity is like solar-powered street lighting, new kinds of crosswalks to really add a lot of additional visibility. And then this is a very simple one, but traffic signage that have that little yellow box around, it's been deeply studied by the federal government, and they found that it reduces collisions by 5%. It's a very cheap upgrade to signals that we could make that could make a big difference in some of those intersections. So that's what I have. Happy to take questions. There's a lot more data and depth we're going to go into. But.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you to you and anyone involved in helping us secure this $800,000 grant. As I've said from this horseshoe many times, traffic calming was top 2 ask of Ward 2 residents when I was knocking doors this last election. And council, I don't know if you've seen the statistic yet or survey result yet, but I attended the Maps for Connectivity subcommittee meeting on Wednesday. And the consultant we've hired to do the beautification work, the outreach to residents, asking them what would they like to see, what do they think about the projects council put in the beautification, what else would they like to see? Guess what the #1 by far ask the majority of residents? To make the city more walkable, above and beyond. It wasn't even close. Then it was about, and I see some representatives from Paseo here today, it was about the pride people feel in their local historic districts. It was like the #3 thing, but what they wanted was better connectivity to those districts. So that's why the streetscape is so important, and the maps for sidewalks that connect people to those streetscapes are important, in the class and BRT sidewalks. So I linger on this, y'all, because I hear sometimes from fellow council members and sometimes from city staff this question: why don't people walk more in our city? Why don't people walk more in our city? It's the way you design your streets, is how people use them. That's basic research. And so we've really got to shake out of that mentality of why aren't people doing these things? If you build it, Field of Dreams taught us, they will come. So I am so excited. Don't worry, peer-reviewed research backs it up. But anyway, I'm so excited, and I just want to say congratulations on this. Ward 2 residents have been asking for it. Turns out they said so in that beautification study as well. Thank you. Thanks.
I'm curious what the numbers actually are instead of percentages. Just,
sure.
And you don't have to if you don't have that, I'd just be interested to know somewhere down the road, total fatalities, instead of just a 6% decline, was that 200 people, 2,000 people, or 20 people?
I actually do have that. So in 2021, it was 99 fatalities on our streets. So, yeah.
What is the timeline for the development of those the recommendations, I guess?
Yeah, so as part of the RFP, we've kind of broken it down into a series of deliverables. One of the first things that we want to do is kind of come up with some site-specific recommendations, study some of our most dangerous segments, and kind of deliver out something that is programmable for the 2025 GO bond. So we're kind of trying to align it that way so that we can know what some of the recommendations could be that could flow into that. There's another portion later where we're going to look at some of the systemic changes, and part of that is related to, there's another side of this grant that's for capital improvements. And the idea is come up with a plan that we could then take for a second application and try to get more funding.
Because the other thing that was just I don't know, I would hope that this needle was being threaded, but just to sort of say it out loud is, seeing that streetlights piece, if there's some sort of harmony between what you all are doing and the MAPS for streetlights funds as far as where those are being installed, or if there's a plan being developed for that, I would think it would make sense that some of what y'all are doing would dovetail or sort of complement that. And then I want to sort of just kind of uplift what Councilor Cooper was saying. I was sent a clip from, I believe it was yesterday's Traffic and Transportation Commission, where one of our staff members essentially said the sign of and I'm going to get the quote not exactly correct, but essentially what I took away from it is the mindset is that a well-designed road is one where people can zone out when they're behind the wheel. And that is very concerning for me as somebody who is behind the wheel of another car that is interacting with other cars, because I do drive on a somewhat, every once in a while. And the idea that, the thing that I think a lot of parents tell their children when they're learning to drive is defensive driving. You have to assume everyone else is about to make a mistake, because it's, and the thing that my parents would always say is, I'm not so concerned about you, it's other people on the road. And so whether you're in a vehicle or outside of one, I would hope that this would resonate as something we all want, because it's not just about, which, my priority is about the people outside the vehicles, but it also translates to safer conditions for other people on the road that are in vehicles. So I just kind of want to highlight that, and thank you all again. Yes, kind of just piggyback on what Councilor Cooper was saying about being grateful for the work y'all are doing on this and to get us to this point, because I know it's one of those things that I've had conversations with people in the community where they say, I've heard about this Vision Zero thing, can we do that here? And you all are really the ones making that happen. So I really appreciate everyone who's been working on this.
And I just wanted to say those street lights that you showed were dreamy. I mean, that's the ideal of what we want within our communities. And it makes me think back to when I was first elected. A gentleman, a family called me because their father had been hit and killed by a driver because of poor lighting. So that's one of the things that I know we all look for and want, but really advocating for that type of brightness of what those lights look like. I'm really hoping that's something that we can move into. I know we've been getting those upgrades of those LED lights, but having something to that magnitude, I think, without too much light pollution, is ideal for our residents to be able to have that safety when they're walking. So I'm also looking forward to what the study can bring, and also I know it's going to be an educational piece of how we educate the community about what this effort is. So I am hoping for our particular communities that we're able to have probably more than one conversation for them to understand what this is and how we can make those decisions and advocate for the things that are within this grant. But very grateful for the work you all are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Amanda Bleakley, who signed up to comment on item AH.
Good morning, Mayor Holt, City Council. I'm just here to, first of all, thank you for your vision that you had 13 years ago in 2010 when the CDRP program was started. I believe I have my dates correct. We were one of the first lucky recipients, the Paseo Arts District. And I think we can all agree the progress that's been made over the years with the district. It's taken some time and patience, and we appreciate John and Joy Belt for all that they have done. It took people like them to be stakeholders in an area where they felt it was important to maintain the integrity of the buildings. So today you're voting again for our professional services agreement. We are very appreciative of receiving that over the years because it's helped us fund our organization, the Paseo Arts Association, which we have grown over the last couple of years. I want to thank Councilman Cooper as well for all of his help in the streetscape, and thank you for the funding that bond so that we could have a beautiful area that's walkable and safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have another resident who signed up to speak on item AJ, and that is Terry Walker.
Good morning, Mayor Harold and the City Council, and also James Cooper, our councilman. I'm the manager for 39th Street District. I'm one of the newer district's managers here in Oklahoma City. I just moved back from Dallas to Oklahoma City, where I was a resident for many years, growing up in the South Side and going to high school at Moore High School. So, but I'm one of the newer ones. So the 39th Street District has really grown just in the last 3 months that I've been here. We have quite a few new businesses that have opened. We have the District Auto Care, Rainbow Bistro, Point A Gallery, Pride Cannabis, and then we have 3 new ones that are opening up: a coffee shop, a record shop, and a barber shop. They're on 39th Street, and we appreciate everything that has been for the streetscape on 39th Street. It makes it really nice, and we're also doing events down there again, and then we're also making 39th Street District a destination because it's one of the largest LGBTQ community business districts that has a historic road going through it, which we all know is Route 66. So we're gonna focus on that and get people down there and bring more businesses down there. So thank you.
Thank you.
One moment. Terry? Terry? We have not met yet officially. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your work, and welcome to 39th Street.
Well, I just hope that I do good. Thank you.
All right, that concludes the items on the consent docket that any resident had signed up to address, and we could take them now with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us to the concurrence docket. We have items A through E we could take with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, item 11, items requiring separate votes. Item 11A is an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval, rezoning 1304 Northeast 14th from R1 to R4. This was deferred from June 20th and July 5th. Councilwoman Nice, no one has signed up to speak.
Thank you. I did talk to Mr. Haggard again and advised him that I did want just a little more time as I'm working through some information pertaining to this area. So he politely obliged to that, so I am going to ask that we defer this for 2 more weeks.
We have a motion and a second for a deferral of item 11A. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 11B is an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval, rezoning 1422 Northwest 115th from R1 to R2. Councilwoman Nice Noen is signed up to speak.
Thank you. This application is, looking for it here, sorry. Have it here. I'm on papers, there we go. All this stuff. So many. Okay, there we go. This one, we're looking at a duplex, and I do understand that there were no protests for this, and I will ask that we move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item 11C is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, rezoning 11109 Northwestern from R1 to PUD 1492. This was deferred from July 5th. Councilwoman Nice Noen is signed up to speak.
Okay. I did want to mention 2 weeks ago when I asked for us to defer this, this was at the ask and request of our representative for District 99. During that process, Ms. Debbie and I have asked and tried to work with our representative to get more information on who we needed to talk to as far as this concern is with this development, and we have not been able to get any information from that. In the process, I did talk to the developer of this property and their desires, as well as our planning commissioner about this particular development and the TEs. And there was a community meeting, neighborhood meeting, that a few people were there to speak to the amended TEs that we see. So therefore, I am going to ask that we move for approval for this application.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item 11D. This is an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval, rezoning 3622 Northwest 192nd Street from PUD 1111 to PUD 1945. This was deferred from June 20th. Councilman Stonecipher, we do have one resident who signed up to speak.
Great. This is an ordinance on final hearing. The applicant is Caliber Development Company, LLC, represented by David M. Box. I'd like Mr. Box to come up and kind of explain where we are with this at this time, and then we'll hear from the person that signed up and was kind enough to come down and see us today.
Good morning, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. Here on behalf of Oncue, I've got several Oncue representatives that are here with us, as well as two environmental consultants that we have retained based upon some of the letters that you received. So I think it's important at the outset to kind of understand this site. So the entirety of this section of land was zoned PUD 1111, November 1 of 2005. And at that time, the entire 640 acres were zoned and put into various tracts with a lot of R1, but then also a lot of commercial that fronts Portland State Highway 74. Since that time, ODOT has expanded Portland, and it is now a fully developed four-lane divided highway going north and south. So when we went through Planning Commission, there were no protests at that time. In reading some of the letters, there are concerns with gas station, and had they known that a gas station was possible, they wouldn't have bought or wouldn't have moved here. So I think it's important that we recognize that the current PUD within this area, which is tract 6 in PUD 1111, allows for a gas station. Now, what it allows for are those smaller, not as nice gas stations of the past. It doesn't allow for the size we propose with the Oncue. However, what the PUD 1111 allows for is fast food, gas stations, all those things, with nothing more than a 5-foot landscape buffer and a 15-foot building setback. What we propose is a 40-foot landscape buffer. So rather than a 5, they'll have 40 foot of landscaping, and rather than a 15-foot setback of the building, we will have over 150 feet from the building before you hit the property line. So it's a significant, I'm sorry? Yeah. So the setback today that someone could build is a 15-foot building setback, and within that 15-foot, only a 5-foot landscape buffer. Our plan proposes a 40-foot landscape buffer and a 153-foot building setback. So it is a significant increase in setback as well as the landscaping component compared to what could be built today. So there were a handful of TEs at the time of Planning Commission. You see them in your staff report. So we did agree to 4 of them and then added 2 more at the time of Planning Commission. So it is, in our opinion, compatible when you think about what all has happened in this area. Oncue does, I think, a fantastic job of developing in close proximity to single family. There are many examples of Oncues next to single family within the metro and outside of Oklahoma City. And again, we think this is actually a better version of what could be built today under the current zoning.
Help me out here a little, Mr. Box. As far as the protest letters that you mentioned, what efforts have your folks made to meet with the people who sent letters and discuss this zoning issue?
So Scott Mitten, who's here, he's with Oncue. He reached out after the last time that our case was deferred to a person named Jenny Street. That was one of the contact letters we had. She responded saying that she will be back in touch. We didn't hear anything. Scott Mitten then followed up again asking, where are we on meeting? We'd love the opportunity to come sit down and explain what we're doing, answer any questions, and that also went unanswered. So efforts were made. We checked with the president of the HOA, and they hadn't received anything either. So we were certainly willing to meet, and Scott was proactive in that, but never heard back from Ms. Street.
Thank you. Amy, the mayor said someone had signed up to speak.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, you do have one.
I do have you're asking if someone signed to speak? Yes.
Yes, please.
Would you like to hear from them?
Yes, please.
All right, Julianne Cannon.
And would you state your full name for the record and your home address, please?
Sure. My name is Julianne Cannon. I'm at 3625 Northwest 190th Street. Good morning, Mayor Holt, City Council. My name is Julianne Cannon, and I am a homeowner in the Grove neighborhood. I am here with my fellow neighbors, handful of us, to petition PUD 1945. Please note, the lawyer for the development caught wind of our petition and requested a rescheduling. It was granted, but a letter was never resent back to our homeowners. We were supposed to be here in June, but at 4:45 on the Friday before a holiday weekend, the lawyer sent the city council a message to say, please reschedule this. He tried to push it to the 5th of July, the day after a holiday, another one, and here we are now on the 18th of July. Unfortunately, because of this rescheduling, you aren't getting to see the full representation of our opposition. Many of our neighbors who were able to attend in June are now actually on deployment. We have many that are active duty military who are at Tinker and Will Rogers currently working. We have a handful who are unable to take off of work. And because it's the middle of summer, we have a handful of families who are on vacation. But you get us. However, please note that every neighbor on Tarver Way, 190th Street, and the cul-de-sac portion of the Grove Parkway, those are the 3 closest to this rezoning, all petitioned this zone change request, which means the 12 houses touching the perimeter of the zone change, 11 homeowners petitioned by either signing or sending you the city clerk email saying no to the gas station. Please do not rezone this. The remaining 1 is actually still a vacant lot. There is no home there. It is vacant. They have not even started, they just started breaking ground. And it hasn't been sold. So I don't know who that person's going to be, but I'm pretty sure that when they show up, they probably don't want to be buying a house behind a gas station. There was a couple that approached me who actually said that they were interested in the lot, but then they started to learn that a gas station would be there, and they have decided to decline purchasing that lot. So we believe a gas station will be a safety, pollution, and environmental concern for our children and adult residents. Of utmost concern, there are health risks that will be exposed to just by enjoying our backyards. We have 25 kids under the age of 18. Of those 25, 15 are under the age of 5, to include my 3 children. Thank you for not kicking us out. They are Austin, he's 3.5, Luke, he's 1.5, and my youngest is Colt, he's 5 months. I would have been in the April meeting to protest, but I was 2 months postpartum, and I'm really sorry, but that would have been a lot. We also have another neighbor, 5, Everett, who's 5. My pregnant neighbor on the way, joining us in November, and the mom of Everett. And my other neighbor, sorry, Amanda. She lives next to me. All who petition. We have adults with health conditions. Some are actually cancer survivors. And we also have numerous dogs and cats. As already stated, we did purchase our homes knowing that the land behind us was zoned for commercial and multi-use. Some actually were even informed that nothing would be built behind them. There wasn't any mention of a gas station. We talked with the builders, Tabor, when we purchased, and even with our realtor. They did mention commercial multi-use, but never a gas station. It was not rezoned. And probably a handful of us would not have purchased our homes, us included. We all paid a lot premium. Can you imagine paying a lot premium just to end up sharing a perimeter fence with a gas station? It's already a tight real estate market, and putting a gas station behind our house is going to significantly decrease our property values. Additionally, our portion of the neighborhood is new. Again, there are 13, with the houses that are already built, there are still 13 houses in our area alone that are still in construction. They don't have homeowners. People do not, they may have been sold, they're probably still available, there are some signs out, but I don't know who those neighbors are. I don't know if any of them have received letters saying that, hey, thank you for purchasing your home, but we're going to put a gas station behind it now. Additionally, we, as neighbors, disagree in the PUD 1945 Master Plan Section 4.0 wording, where it was stated, the proposed use of this property as a gas station is in harmony with the surrounding zoning. I would like to ask, how is a gas station near an elementary school, which is roughly 0.2 miles to the right of this proposed, that's Grove Elementary School, how is that and sharing a perimeter with residential homes considered harmony, with or without additional landscaping to divide us? This business will increase traffic, encourage loitering, increase crime, and will bring criminal, noise, light, and trash pollution to our air, soil, water, and neighborhood, which is not compatible with the residential nature of our area. As a homeowner, I want to feel safe. I want my kids to feel safe, and living near, in our case behind, a gas station can increase the risk of crime and is a safety concern. And I would like to share that in July of 2021, a man was taken into custody from the Oncue on 164th in Portland. That's 2 miles down the road, south of us, after he caused a tanker explosion. Per the article, the crash happened when a car tried to run over an Oncue worker for a second time. The driver missed the clerk and hit the tanker truck that was filled with gasoline. The crash happened around 2 a.m. The diesel-filled tanker driver was trying to get fuel offloaded and was doused with fuel when he was struck by the car, and then the fire started. The article continues to quote Master Sergeant Gary Knight with the Oklahoma City Police Department saying, It made for a very dangerous situation, and it was only complicated more by the fact that a car burst into flames. Additionally, firefighters said the blaze could have been much worse if more gas spilled onto the ground, which means gas spilled onto the ground. It also happened at 2 a.m. And lucky, that Oncue, it doesn't back up to houses. But can you imagine if it did? At 2 a.m., having a tanker truck and a vehicle on fire directly behind your house. When I tuck my babies in at night, I don't want to worry about that. I want them to go to sleep. I want to wake up to a brand new day. I can't even imagine being startled awake with an explosion and gas spilling so close to our houses. And what if it happened during the day when a school is in session? That's 0.2 miles down the way. You've got kids, you've got parents coming for their kids, you've got fire trucks, the works. You've got a tanker explosion. And quite honestly, you can't say that it won't ever happen. It did. It happened. There are always possibilities of spills, leaks, and other accidents that can occur. And even with the best efforts to avoid it, fueling stations and high levels of VOCs are leaked into the air, there's chemicals into the soil and the groundwater, and there's increased risks of respiratory diseases and cancers. We live right behind this. It's actually downhill. It's less than 300 feet from the proposed pumps. There might be 150 buffer of landscaping, but an additional 150 feet, there's a pump. And it's 300 feet from my backyard. And according to a study by the California Air Resources Board, a minimum distance of 300 feet is recommended between residential housing and sensitive land uses, such as schools, daycare centers, playgrounds, or medical facilities.
Julianne. So normally the limit is 3 minutes. But
Oh, I'm sorry, nobody told me that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You were clearly speaking for a group, and so we're at 9 now. I just wondered how much more.
Probably 2 more minutes.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Mayor. Nobody told me. Okay. My husband, who would actually be here, but he currently is overseas with the military, we moved to Oklahoma and we bought our home in a wonderful neighborhood. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm raising our 3 sons. You've met them. We live in our backyard. We play with our neighbors in their backyards. We're constantly outside, and now we'll have the daily continued presence of gas fumes, increased traffic, noise, pollution 24/7. Gas stations don't close down 24/7. Gas stations can have a significantly adverse impact on neighborhoods with young children, as this is a vulnerability and a huge health risk to the population too young to understand the dangers that can affect them for the rest of their lives. Our kids didn't sign up for these risks. We shouldn't have to worry if they'll get leukemia or any other kind of cancer just by being in such a close proximity to a gas station. There are gas stations within 1 to 2 miles of this proposed site. On 192nd in Portland, diagonal from this proposed site, there's a Shell station. On 178th in May, which is the diagonal corner of our neighborhood, they put in a 7-Eleven. But I'd like to note that that gas station is situated away from residential homes. There are other buildings leading up to it. They don't share a perimeter fence. 164th in Portland, there's an Oncue. We've already talked about that. It also doesn't have residents behind it. On 178th in Portland, there's a rundown gas station. I don't know what it's going to be turned into, but it's rundown. But on 178th in Portland, on the opposite side, which would be 1 block down from this proposed Oncue, there's a proposal for a 7-Eleven. How many gas stations do we need? The HOA, as it was stated, they reached out. The HOA is actually the developer. He works for Caliber. He's trying to sell this land. He's not the voice of our neighborhood, and he's just trying to complete the remaining sales. This sale doesn't take into consideration the homeowners, and if it did, it would have actually been sold to a company within the original PUD 1111 zoning. So in conclusion, and thank you for your time. In conclusion, I do have a few questions. Does the City Council think that the rescheduling for this new date was handled properly? Shouldn't we have all been sent a new letter with a new date and time? We weren't. I did speak with Amy on the phone actually multiple times over the holiday weekend. It took her up until Monday on the holiday to reach back out to me with a new date, and I really do appreciate that. But that's an entire holiday weekend spent waiting to figure out when this new date would be heard. And honestly, why did the attorney get rescheduled just because they caught wind of a petition and they wanted to push this? When do the homeowners get to say that this doesn't work with our schedule and we needed to reschedule because half of us can't be here? Has the city council seen all the environmental studies? And if so, the homeowners haven't. And personally, would you want to live behind a gas station? Would any of you want to? Imagine you just built a brand new house, and 7 months later, you're in my shoes, and here you are, requesting respectfully to not have a gas station built behind your house. Would you like to send your kids to a school with a gas station so close? I mean, talking about crime and the things that happen at gas stations, what if a drunk or a homeless person wanders over to the school property and they potentially harass or assault students or teachers? You send your kids there. You can't say it never happens. There are homeless people at all gas stations in and around this metro area. I see them every day. I literally saw them the other day. They sit in the shade by the trees outside. There are skimmers that are used at gas stations. That's criminal. Things happen at gas stations. That's my backyard. And I know these are rhetorical questions, but I would like to think I would know how you would respond if you were in my shoes. You wouldn't want this gas station right on the other side of your back fence and so close to an elementary school where you would be taking your kids. And if you vote for this, you are prioritizing profits over the safety and the health of your constituents. And it's pretty clear, cut and dry. So we respectfully request for you to please vote no. And I am sorry that this is at this emergency. I didn't realize it was emergency listed hearing, but please vote no. We homeowners do not want this. So thank you very much for your time. I apologize I went over.
Sure, but you spoke for a group, and we appreciated that. Sometimes people just come up and say the same thing. So. And just one quick clarification, the emergency, that's not going to be utilized today, I presume. That's just, that's a legalese thing, and don't worry, that has no meaning here. So go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Julianne, I appreciate you being here today. I appreciate your kids being here today.
Oh, yeah.
I love kids. But most importantly, I appreciate the neighbors being here. The one thing I'm concerned about is that you mentioned there are several people that want to be heard and are not being heard today. And so we're not in any rush. We're not in any emergency. What I'm going to do is move to defer this. And what I want you to do is to give your phone number to these folks over here.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you my card so you can call me.
Okay.
Okay? And we'll get something set up and we'll talk this thing through, okay? How about that? Is that okay?
Does that work? I think so.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for being here
Thank you for at
today.
least not voting.
I really appreciate you being here today. And at this time, I'll move that this be deferred to, what is it, August 1st is our next meeting? Yeah, to August 1st, please.
August 1st, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to defer the item. And Joy, we'll hear from you right after this, if that's okay. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item is deferred. Okay, Joy Reardon to address the zoning cases today.
Hi again, Joy Reardon, 125 Northwest 9th. I'd like to address the NIMBYs in the back. Yeah, that's great that they don't want a gas station in their home, but if y'all remember a while back when housing come up and decided they were going to put an Oncue next to Oak Grove, what message are we sending? We don't want it next to, white people. What about black and brown? I'm tired of y'all voting to put these, to down these people because they don't want all this development next to their homes and everything. Look what population we've got in Oak Grove. One, we've got Oklahoma City housing. Two, we've got black and brown people, Hispanics, Native Americans. They're going to destroy 8 buildings. That's 8 families that won't have a home. Have they thought about that? I'm sorry. NIMBYs has got to be stopped. And NIMBY is meaning Not in my backyard. A lot of good things has come before the city council, and because of NIMBYs, hasn't been done. I'm sorry you feel that way, but if you actually look at the PUD, it says gas station is allowed to be there. Whether it's an Oncue, a 7-Eleven, or whatever else. And if homeless people are getting out that far into the city, there's a problem. Seriously, most homeless people don't want to be that far out. Yes, because people don't pay attention. There's going to be truck accidents. 96% of the time, it's the car drivers that cause the accidents. I was a truck driver. I drove a truck for 30 years. I have over 4 million miles accident-free. So I'm sorry if people don't want stuff in their backyard.
30 seconds, please.
How are we going to grow our city? Even though I don't like being that far out, but still, it's the developer that's going to dictate what is built there. Thank you, and I'll be back later.
All right. Item 11E is an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval, rezoning 16160 North Morgan Road from AA to PUD 1951. Councilman Carter, no one has signed up to speak.
This is just to add an indoor gymnasium to the building that's already there, so with no opposition, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 11F is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, rezoning 1500 Northwest 16th from R1 to SPUD 1515. This was deferred from July 5th. Councilwoman Hammond, no one has signed up to speak.
Yes, I'll just state the only reason this was deferred, I didn't have any concerns about it, but I knew I was going to be absent from the meeting. The applicant was not available, so I just wanted to make sure that we were both present and available when this came before council. I have no questions. This is just some infill, increasing density within the court, so I will move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 11G is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, rezoning 2008 North Portland from PUD 610 to SPUD 1526. Councilwoman Hammond, no one has signed up to speak.
Thank you. Yes, this is just pretty straightforward commercial use rezoning. There was no protest. It was unanimously recommended by Planning Commission, so I will move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 11H is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, rezoning 2041 Southeast 44th from I-1 to SPUD 1527. Councilman Stone, someone has signed up to speak. I don't know what their perspective is.
All right, well, let's bring them forward.
Okay. Sagiradon.
Oh, Ahmed, how are you doing, sir?
There we go.
All right. My name is Ahmed, and we applied last time for the zoning changes. I have the tenants, and he's been there about 4 years. So the city inspector told us that you have to change the zoning to do the business.
Automobile piece, great. I'll just say it was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission and staff. So with that, I'll go ahead and move for its approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 11I is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, rezoning 3514 North MacArthur from C3 to SPD 1528. Councilman Cooper, no one is signed up to speak.
Thanks, Mayor. But is anyone here representing? Yes. Come tell us a little bit about what you all are requesting. This is a new part to Ward 2, and I was really intrigued hearing a little bit of the history of this area. So if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you. My name is Charles Allen. I'm with Allen Engineering. The owners of the property are not here, but the owners of the Zodiac Club are here, Michelle and Colin, and their nighttime bartender, Tristan, is also here to answer any questions. This is a requirement for a reuse or change of use for the Zodiac Club to move one door north of where it currently was. They lost their lease at the end of February, and so going through, working with staff, they recommended a PUD, or a SPUD rather, to address parking concerns. We met with Janice Powers back in April. She was in favor of this. We've gone through Planning Commission twice due to a property notification problem, and appreciate your help getting that resolved and being able to do simultaneous notifications. This is a barge just under 3,000 square feet. It's actually a pool hall. It's got special pool tables that accept credit cards and money, and have a lot of clubs here. The owners, Michelle and Colin, are raising the grandchildren. This is their main source or only source of income. And it's a community local bar that's, I don't think that's the right picture though. Is that? I guess it is. Thank you. And the SPUD addressed parking basically, and I think with alternative means of transportation with Uber and Lyft, people being aware that drinking and driving is not safe or acceptable anymore. The parking is not a concern. It never has been. A lot of the patrons are local and actually walk to the bar. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Now, how many years has Zodiac?
This started, it was incorporated in 1969. Michelle's, so 53, when is that? Yeah, 53 years. Michelle's mother bought it in 2001, 2002, and you took that over in 21. She passed away, and Michelle's taken that over, so.
Well,
it's been around for a while.
Yeah, and I just want to say congratulations. I think once you get those many years under your belt, you become what we call an institution, right? My neighborhood, Paseo, we have an old gas station converted into the pump bar. I think when we talked on the phone, there's Mayfair Heights, which is right next door to Chester's, which has pool as well. And yeah, I really appreciate your language that I'd love for people in the comments on Facebook, anytime a new development comes up, who's like, there's not enough parking. I loved your comment about parking. We have plenty of parking, y'all. And I really appreciate your safety note about Uber, Lyft, working on getting some public transit out toward y'all, but that's something I'm very much an advocate for. And I just wanted to say thanks for being a part of the city, and I would move for approval, unless there's anything either of you would want to add. Okay, let's do it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't know that I've ever seen a better zoning vote reaction. Thank you for that. I was watching you guys. You were so excited.
Do you want to speak? Look, you really have done it. You sure? Yeah, come on up. Y'all have been here for a minute.
I just want to say this is more than a bar. It's been around. Karen, everyone loves. If you walk into that place and you say Karen or you say Michelle, everyone knows who you're talking about. It was more than just a cavern. We celebrate things. We have rides for people who are in need, anything like that. It's more than just serving alcohol. So I appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being part of Ward 2 in the city, y'all.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank y'all.
Okay, 11J is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, rezoning 2020 Northwest 23rd Street from R1 and Gatewood Urban Conservation Overlay District to SPUD 1529 and Gatewood Urban Conservation District. Councilwoman Hammond, no one is signed to speak.
Yes, is the applicant present? I don't think I see him. Well, I'll just say, I do know there was some protest at Planning Commission and sort of through the process. My understanding is that most of that protest has been addressed through some of the TEs and just conversation with the applicant. It sounds to me like there was still concern about the amount of parking, but I just generally, being in the middle of the city, that's always going to be a question and something to navigate for whatever sort of development is occurring. So and this was recommended for approval by Planning Commission. So I'm happy to and committed to continue to speak with that protester and anyone else who's concerned about that issue in this area, but I am going to move it forward for approval and just knowing that that is going to be always a conversation for developments within the city, and I think that's something that we don't necessarily need to address within this SPED itself.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, item 11K is an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval, closing the west 25 feet of a 42-foot wide north-south easement north of 50th and May. Councilman Cooper.
Yes, David, Mr. Box, would you mind? And do you happen to have the rendering? Oh, great.
David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. So the applicant on this is the same entity that owns the commercial development that was known as Mayfair Village. So Precor Ruffin acquired that. They've made, if you've driven by there anytime recently, there's been significant work that's gone in there. Beautification, some of the buildings have been removed, new buildings coming in. So this application before you is a bit of an odd one. It's an easement closing, but specifically it's an old ODOT easement that my client worked through to get donated to the city. We're seeking to close it to be able to bring things closer to May Avenue. What I'm showing you here, we've worked with Councilman Cooper on kind of showing you what we plan here. Now what you see here is the pad site for the middle. There's likely going to be 3 pads. So this is the one that's not right at the corner of 50th and May, but in that kind of, there you go, centerpiece. So what we've done through conversations with the council person is increase our landscaping, but I think perhaps more important to the councilman was this walkway right here that will connect the sidewalk along May Avenue and the building will now be a protected walkway and a raised walkway within the parking lot so that those pedestrians along May Avenue will have a safe way to get to the building, and that all of the traffic within this will have to obviously have a physical raising of their car as they go over it. It's similar to, if you're familiar with the Starbucks at 23rd and Robinson, there's also an elevated, it actually goes through the drive-through. So if you drive in your car, you have to drive over that hump, but it gets the people on 23rd to the building on that elevated. So we think it's a safer way to get people from the sidewalk to the building. And again, in keeping with what they've done overall with this development, it'll be heavily landscaped, attractive buildings, and bringing some new things to market.
I don't know if you saw people around you. Joy got excited. Might say express joy. I saw some gas.
I rarely get people excited in this room.
So I want, no, well.
Fantastic.
That's why I wanted to give you your moment there.
I'm self-aware. It's all right.
Just wanted to give you a little bit of moment there. No, I hope your clients are listening, watching, and if not, please share the sense of gratitude, because when I first saw online some of the proposals for what this site was going to look like on OKC Talk, I was really concerned because it really prioritized initially vehicular traffic accessing, these new retail stores that are coming there. And that's all well and good. People drive cars. I have a car. I drive it. I drove it here this morning. We actually saw each other on Classen the other day. when I was driving to get some stuff because my tummy hurt. But the work, I really want to commend you and the client, the work you all did to revise that, to amp up the landscaping, which was heavy on my mind because of this time of year with the heat. I really did not want to see this portion of May Avenue repeat past mistakes. And those were mistakes where it's just sprawling parking in front of retail. When I've asked on social media, where do you most need crosswalks in our city? And several of the respondents said 50th and May. So when this came to council, I knew this was an opportunity to really make sure that the residents who live in Mayfair West, just right there to the south west here, and the residents who are there to the southeast at Mayfair Heights are gonna have better access to something, and that's why that elevated walkway was critical. And that actually came a lot from the Oncue conversation we had with Oak Grove, where they're doing something similar, and it was actually Councilwoman Hammond who helped us think about, because they were gonna do a crosswalk, but then Councilwoman Hammond said, what if we elevated it? So sometimes good ideas come from multiple different places, and I just wanted to kind of give you all some of that history there, but I really can't thank you enough. Again, this was simply about closing an easement, but we kind of took this moment to say, what can we do to make this more walkable? My final thing I want to note here, and keep this on the screen if we wouldn't mind, if you look at where 52nd is here and you see Target, and then you know there's Jack in the Box, Whataburger, etc. May Avenue Bridge, we're about to replace it from the 2017 bond. And we haven't finished yet with the final proposals. Some of you are looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about. The bridge that goes over Northwest Expressway. That's it. That's about to find itself replaced with an emphasis on pedestrian access to developments like the one we're doing here. So this work is intentional work. And just on the other side of that bridge, I had lunch at Mediterranean Imports recently with some residents who asked me, what are we doing to better connect residents on bike, by foot, not just on car, to this area? And so, I mean, the ADA part's so important. So what you've done here, while not my perfect ask, because I would want things abutting a sidewalk, as we know, but this is a really smart move in the right direction. I hope that the developments around it follow suit. So thank you for your work here. Thanks for listening to that backstory, and I would move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item L was previously deferred to August 15th. Which brings us to item M, which is the public hearing regarding an ordinance proposal related to health inspections. This is the second of 3 meetings where this ordinance change would be considered. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing?
No, they haven't.
They have not, so we will close this public hearing and advance to item N, which is the public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing?
They have not.
They haven't, and so we will advance to the resolution found at 11N2 declaring that the structures are dilapidated. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 11O is the public hearing. 1101 is the public hearing regarding the unsecured structures here listed, except for those previously struck. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
They have not, so we will close the public hearing and advance to the resolution found at 1102 declaring that the structures are unsecured, save for those previously struck. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 11P1 is the public hearing regarding the abandoned buildings here listed, except for those previously struck. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
They have not, and so we will close the public hearing and advance to the resolution found at 11P2 declaring that the buildings are abandoned, save for those previously struck. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 11Q1 is the public hearing regarding the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation not to exceed $4,200,000 from Tax Increment District Number D's Assistance and Development Financing Budget Category, etc., in support of the Harlow project. We do have somebody who has signed up to speak under this public hearing, Joy Reardon.
Good afternoon, Joy Reardon, 125 Northwest 9th. On this Harlow project, I have two serious questions to ask. One is, if they didn't get the money, would they still proceed with the project? Two is, I watched the last meeting on this issue, and not once did I see anybody talk about ADA in the building, if any of the apartments were going to be ADA. And we're constantly talking about affordable homes, affordable apartments, stuff like that. I'd like to know who can afford, what was it, $1,100 a month? Who can afford that? We're constantly barking on the issue of affordability, affordable homes and stuff. At $1,100 a month, you've got to make at least $70 to $80 to probably over $110,000 a year. How many jobs are going to afford that? No answers? I understand that we want to help these developers out and stuff, but our building with housing is literally falling down around us. And what I've heard is housing, the rumor is housing is going to move all of us out to find different locations for us. Quite frankly, with where my doctors are in medical, I can't afford to move to another location and stuff. That'll be part of my 13. But we really need to start looking at if we're going to provide public money for private development, when do we stop? There's other within, I guess, this TIF thing that could be better served. Two buildings that I'm pretty sure could use the money, even though I don't like being housing, but there's other buildings, other apartment buildings and stuff that.
30 seconds, please.
Other apartment buildings that could use the money. So if we could stop the madness, I would appreciate it. Thank you. I'll be back in a little bit.
Thank you. Okay, that's the only person who signed up under the public hearing, and so we'll advance to the joint resolution found at Q2 with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation not to exceed $4.2 million from Tax Increment District Number D for the Harlow project, etc. I believe there's already a presentation. This is the second meeting. This has been considered, and so today is just here for comments, questions, and a motion, if that's the council's desire. All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 7-2. All right, 11R is a resolution declaring approximately 11.2 acres of real property located near Southeast 22nd Street and Eastern Avenue as surplus for park purposes and approving a real estate sales agreement. This has already been on the required 3 meetings and was deferred from July 5th. So we could just take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item S1 is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority authorizing the firm Collins, Zorn, and Wagner to represent city employees Leslie Rodriguez, Tammy Reeder, Carmen Mastari, James Tyler Ray, Bradley Ross, Colby Heisel, and Alex Sukup in the case of Baylor v. 6 unknown officers. Staff does not request executive session, but it's up to the council.
I would like to request executive session on this item.
Okay. We'll bring that up for a motion. This will be a motion on item S2. We have a motion and a second for the executive session. Cast your votes. Passes 7-2. Now we're at T1. This is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority authorizing the firm Collins, Zorn, and Wagner to represent city employees. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll do the executive session at the conclusion of our other business and then potentially come back, obviously, for the joint resolution. All right, T1, joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority authorizing the firm Collins, Zorn, and Wagner to represent city employees Gregory Bell, Michael Boyer, Nathan Clark, Gary Davis, John Farrington, Isaac Goodman, Matthew Kahn, Eric Long, Eric Mullins, Darian Richards, Manuel Vasquez, Bradley Sperry, and Stephen Taylor in the case of Long v. City of OKC.
I would like to request an executive session.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 8-1. Item U1 is, and likewise, we'll handle that business at the end of our rest of our agenda. Item U1 is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority authorizing the firm Collins, Zorn, and Wagner to represent city employee Robert Burton in the case of Entwine v. OCPD.
I would like to request executive session on this item.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes on the executive session. Passes 8-1. Which brings us to item, and we'll handle that at the end of our other business. Which brings us finally to item V. This is an executive session on advice of the municipal councilor to receive communications concerning the case of Kraus v. City of OKC. And this is just an executive session. So we take a motion to go into executive session on this item. Have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And item 11W, this is an executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations for fiscal year 2023-2024 with the FOP, IAF, and AFSCME. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll handle that at the end of our other business. 11X1 is a claim recommended for approval. Executive session is not requested. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, item 12, comments from council. Ward 1. Ward 2.
Amy has some images from I mentioned my previous remarks, previous council remarks I made about the Paseo streetscape, I just wanted to show you all some construction images. Yeah, so this is the proposal of where we're heading, just a rendering. If we could not show the next one yet, the class one, I want to save that for last, or just boot scoot past it real quick. And go over here to the crew. Yeah, so there's some of the images that, right over here, we're constructing a sidewalk along Paseo, along where Sost is. This is some of the crew. They're out there all the time. I am so proud of them. They give me updates about what's happening, and I just wanted to kind of publicly give them their thanks. I'll show you a couple more here, maybe. Old where we were, just so you know what we're working with here. So when you heard Amanda say earlier that when John and Joy Reed Belt took a chance on the Paseo, we're talking there had been shuttered businesses. I think there's another image in black and white here coming up. This building right here used to have the word jail sprawled across it. I mean, this was literally a place by the time the 70s and 80s and early 90s came into existence where people did not feel safe who lived there. People did not feel safe visiting there. Yeah, so this streetscape that's happening, this investment, again, prioritizing ADA accessibility with new sidewalks, widened sidewalks that are ADA accessible. Right now, a lot of the entrances into the art galleries all along this path here, there's a little bit of a gradation change from the sidewalk into the gallery. So people, if you have a wheelchair or if you're a senior, there's a struggle to literally just access the retail. Next one, please, here. So you can kind of see where we're heading with stuff like this. So of course include the ADA improvements, the landscaping, new street lights, etc. Okay. And then let's go ahead and show that Klassen one. This is what I woke up to this morning. Someone tagged me on social media. These are the sidewalks that are coming to Klassen right now as part of Better Street, Safer City. The matching grant, the $14 million matching grant, and I want to give him his credit because we are a nonpartisan body. Retired United States Senator Jim Inhofe was pivotal in helping us secure the matching grant to get us to the $28 million. Because this came with federal dollars, and by the way, that is a moment where someone left of center is in fact giving credit where credit is due to someone definitely right of center, because credit when credit is due. But because it was a federal project, it required us to make sure that all along the bus rapid transit route, sidewalks would find themselves there connecting to the stations where you're going to be able to buy your ticket to real time at the stations. You're going to see real time arrival information. These are going to arrive every 12 to 20 minutes. I just learned, not just Monday through Friday, but on the weekend, which I had been advocating for, residents had been advocating for. Originally it wasn't going to happen, so that's going to happen 7 days a week. This is wonderful news. But sidewalks are finding themselves implemented. The ones that aren't coming from Better Street, Safer City will come from MAPS4, the Sidewalk, Bikes, Trails, and Streetlights project. But I just wanted to take a moment and linger on this. I literally, as I said, when I woke up this morning and opened my Instagram, a young mother who's actually a business owner in this district, Jenny Nguyen, had tagged me in this and tagged the Asian district in this. That is their child who is celebrating their 1 year birthday right now, today. And if not today, it's this week, and I'm so sorry. So happy birthday, kiddo. We're building you a walkable Ward 2 and hopefully a city. I want to linger on this, and I'll just say, when I was sick last week, and I was sick for the entire week, unfortunately, and I'll talk to my therapist about it, unfortunately, one of the thoughts that would enter my head were comments I've heard from some other council members and sometimes from others in the city, where they, as I said earlier, will dismiss the importance of sidewalks. Why are we building these sidewalks, they'll say. Why are you doing this? I don't see people walking, they say. Why are you building these bike lanes? I don't see people biking. Because Good research tells us when we build this infrastructure, people utilize it. And I wanted you to see, council, a mother with their child in a stroller the week of their 1 year anniversary of being on this earth. And they are tagging me saying, wow, the sidewalk repair here is so good, game changer. Game changer, game changer, game changer. And the next time I hear someone, especially from this council, say to me they don't understand what we're doing on Classen, I'm gonna bring up this image. And I want you to reach out to Jenny and this child, and I want you to tell them why you don't think sidewalks are a good idea. It is offensive to me, and if you're wondering why I'm lingering on it so long, it's because I worry that sometimes some of these council members are getting in the way of this progress. A child, a mother and her child. That's what you're getting in the way of, a mother and her child. So Jenny, thank you for being the advocate. Thank you for being a small business owner. Congratulations on your family. My final remark is actually to say to Animal Welfare and Director Rick Wickenkamp, thank you so much for, there is a street called Harlow in the new part of Ward 2, right off about 23rd Street. And when I knocked a door over there, you heard me say this during the budget presentations a few weeks ago, there were about 12 to 20 feral cats. And when I spoke to an older gentleman, who also in spirit of nonpartisan Republican, he's lived there for years. His family had been small business owners in the Windsor shopping district, appliances and stuff like that. I got the whole story from him. And I asked him, why are these cats here? Like, what's going on? Because it was a lot. And he said that too many people were getting cats in a nearby multi-unit apartment complex and then not having the resources or maybe even the education to be able to take care of them, and then getting rid of them, discarding them. And they would find themselves off of that unit that's there on 23rd on Harlow, which is a very small cul-de-sac just south of 23rd Street. It's the importance of knocking doors, because when I spoke with Jack, he brought that to my attention, brought some code enforcement stuff to my attention. I elevated it to Director Wickenkamp. They have, I have learned via email in the last week, successfully caught, spayed, and neutered all but one of those cats, all but one. And that is going to stop the cycle, right? That's going to stop the cycle. And that is wonderful. I cannot thank enough in public everyone involved, from the resident Jack to city government, to the city staff who went out there and did that work. This might not be important to some of the folk who are tuning in or only care about city government as it relates to big developments, but this is the stuff I care about because it's the stuff my residents care about. So I just wanted to say congratulations on that work. Thank you for the streetscape work that you're doing as well on Classen and in Paseo. It's game changers. Thanks.
Thank you. Ward 3, Ward 4, Ward 5, Ward 6.
Yes, first I don't know how happy it is when you have to work on your birthday, but want to wish Councilwoman Nice a happy birthday. Apologize that you have to do council meeting on a birthday, but hopefully it is a wonderful opportunity to celebrate your last revolving around the sun. So also, I do just want to point out 2 opportunities to get involved over the next few weeks with different volunteer efforts going on in the city, and specifically in some efforts that impact Ward 6. OKC Beautiful has been doing their Litter Blitz campaign starting in the spring, and one of the events they scheduled was a few weeks ago, but due to storms got rescheduled to this Saturday at 8:30 a.m. There will be a group of volunteers out doing litter pickup in and around South Rotary Park. And I'm going to be joining them, and if anyone is interested, they can just go to OKC Beautiful's website and sign up. Also looking at other things maybe in their own neighborhood or area that they can go get involved in with those beautification efforts. And then not this Saturday, but next Saturday, July 29th, Period OKC is hosting their back to school menstrual product packing volunteer event. So I got to do one of these, I think this was in June, on a Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. Got to meet some new people, sit around and just pack little packages of tampons, pads that are going out to different social service agencies. My understanding is this event is really focused on getting those products out to a lot of their school partners, but really just a great organization doing some really crucial work, both on that direct service, providing those products for people that struggle to afford them or struggle to access them for various reasons, and also on the advocacy front. So we also talked about lots of legislation, meetings they've had with school districts and different partners that they are also doing as kind of the multi-pronged work of filling this gap for people, both in the near term and thinking systemically in the future. So I just want to highlight those. You can go on their website. They also have a sign-up form to sign up for those sorts of events, and they'll have them multiple, they had June, I believe they'll have one in August, so they do host them on a regular basis if you're not able to make the July 29th. But yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ward 7.
Yes, first, I guess you are truly adulting when you work on your birthday, but grateful to celebrate another one. Thank you for that. I do want to say a couple of things that are happening for July 27th from 4 to 6 at the Willa D. Johnson Recreation Center. We're having our Maps for Parks conversation. So for those who are interested in not only our Northeast parks, but Ward 7 parks, please come and give more input on what you would like to see on those parks. I had a young lady call me yesterday speaking about some areas around the Britton Street and Britton District that she wanted to see some improvements. So I encouraged her to be a part, and I'm going to make sure I follow up with her for that. Also, the Placekeepers Minority Developers Conference is happening around the same time, the 27th through the 29th. So I know some of the pieces of it are sold out already, but this good information is necessary, especially for development within our communities, and for folks that are of our communities to be a part of what's happening. Oh, and I wanted to say, my birthday twin left, so Jeff Kretschmar is my birthday twin with OKC Energy, so I hope he can hear and we'll celebrate my brother from another mother and father. Also, I wanted to just say congratulations to Northeast Oklahoma City for the brand new Willa D. Johnson Recreation Center. Yesterday was the first full day of it being open for the public. Saturday, I told y'all I was getting down this slide, and I was the first one down this slide. I was not playing with y'all. I went down 4 times. And a couple times I had to pinky swear with a couple of little kids because they were scared. And then I think they got on there more than I did afterwards. So that was exciting that I did get to see the kids just enjoy what is coming. And for the naysayers who say this is not for me, I beg to differ. This was built for our community. This was built for our city. But most importantly, this was built to replace something that our community had not received in quite some time. So when I say this is for you, this is for everyone, especially for our young people that are a part of this community, because we know in the spirit of Ms. Johnson, that's what she championed. It was the youth, and her being a part of even helping to establish our youth council when she had served on our city council, speaks to why these types of things are important. So pickleball, my mama says she want to play pickleball, so we'll see what happens. I might take pictures of that too. And just being able to enjoy and just see the liveliness of the faces of seeing a brand new facility that belongs to our community. And if you had not heard, this was the first youth center that has been built, or community or recreation center that our city has built in 40 years. So that's my lifetime, quite frankly, that we haven't seen anything of this magnitude in our city proper. So again, this is a great accomplishment in all of the programming, things that will be taking place. I know we're all excited about, and I truly encourage everyone to get a membership. It's, in my opinion, pretty affordable for those who can, and carry some of our families that can't, if you are able to do that. And that's why we did establish when the mayor was working with me at that time, we were able to establish that endowment fund. So these things are very important for us to make sure that our communities can still say and continue to say these places are and belong to our community. And I do want to quote Ms. Johnson's son, Warren, as he spoke on Friday. He said, "Mama held on as long as she could because she wanted to see this into fruition as far as the building being built." But we knew on Friday she was smiling down as far as us looking and saying Willa D. Johnson Recreation Center. So I am hoping that I can get those updated flyers to pass out to the community that I've been waiting for quite some time, and maybe now we can include the membership fees and the things that we need so we can get this saturated in our community. But other than that, very grateful to all of us and the voters for saying yes in 2017 for that GO bond, for us to say yes to this recreation center. So enjoy Oklahoma City, especially those that live within Northeast Oklahoma City.
Mayor? I've been sick and I'm out of it, so I'd missed the opening last week, and I also missed your birthday, and I am so sorry. Happy birthday, Councilwoman. Also, I was looking at Facebook, and your post the day before that had all the images of the facility and what was in it. I saw some of the negative comments, people saying it wasn't accessible in terms of, $15 a month membership for kids, which I just want to take the time to say two things. One, I really applaud the efforts you and the mayor made all those years ago to start moving in that direction to make it accessible for the families that might struggle to have that $15. That's the history I just heard. So it's really wanted to, in public, say thank you for that. And two, I know sometimes when I read some of those comments on social media about work I'm doing, 1, 2, 3, 4 negative comments can put me in a spiral in a really not good mental health place. I can't speak that that's what your experience was reading those comments, but I would like to take the time to say this. I was so impressed at least last count, 1,000 shares from your post, from Councilwoman Nikki Nice's Facebook page, 1,000 shares. People trust you. Always remember that. They trust you as a place of information, and they were so excited for the reasons you said. I can't think of a better birthday gift than having the trust of the community. So I know sometimes it's easy to focus on the negative, but there's the light.
All right, we have two residents who've signed up to speak under item 13, citizens to be heard. Amanda Sandoval.
Hello, good morning, Mayor, Council, personnel. Happy birthday, Councilwoman Nice. I am just here to formally introduce myself. I come from a public service background, so I know how thankless this job can be. So first and foremost, I wanted to thank you all for voting in support of item, professional service agreement with the Southwest 29th District Association Incorporated. And formally again introduce myself. My name is Amanda Sandoval. I am the newly appointed Executive Director for La 29 Southwest 29th District Association, and I'm looking forward to continued support from the City of Oklahoma City. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Joy Reardon.
Good afternoon, Joey Reardon, 125 Northwest 9th. Happy birthday, Nikki. Councilman Cooper, on your sidewalk thing, do you know why we need sidewalks?
Oh, please tell me.
It would cut down on the fatalities, car versus pedestrians. Signal 82, fire department. 2 is it would get people where they wouldn't get traffic tickets. I got that firsthand. I know the outcome of that. We're doing a lot better on the ADA, but we can always do better. And it's going back to we need more ADA accessible apartments and homes and stuff like that. All these developers keep coming up and no one's speaking of that. And we've got an aging community population, and we've got more and more people getting hit by cars. OSHA, I brought up the issue earlier in the session about the rumors. I've got at least 12 residents wondering what in the world's going on with OSHA. Are we getting moved out of our building or not? And what's going on, Ms. Hammond? 9th Street, when is it going to be fixed? And we've got a major problem with the people using 9th Street from Broadway to Robinson as a drag strip and running the light. There's been 13 major accidents in 12 years that I've lived there. Maybe something can be done about that, especially at 9th and Robinson when we got seniors living there that likes to go across the street, and they're worried about their pets and stuff because people drag race down one block. The other thing is the rec center. When I was growing up, just about every city park had a rec center. Thank y'all for bringing that back. A lot of the rec centers that was there.
30 seconds, please.
Thank you. A lot of the rec centers, because of the drugs and stuff like that, were set on fire and tore down. So now we've got a new direction that we can be heading. Thank y'all. See y'all hopefully in 2 weeks.
Thank you. That concludes citizens to be heard. We now have executive session on 5 items, and then we will come back for votes on 3 resolutions. Okay, we are back from executive session, and we do have 3 resolutions to consider. We'll do them one at a time. The first is 11S1, joint resolution with the MFA regarding representation in the case of Baylor v. 6 unknown officers. Take a motion on that. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. No, 2 or 7.
The white one's not showing up.
Oh, how do you wish to vote, Matt?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item 11T1 is a joint resolution with MFA regarding the case of Long v. City of OKC. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 6-1. And then finally, 11U1. This is a joint resolution with MFA regarding the case of Antwine v. OCPD. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes 6-1. That concludes our business for the day. We have reached item 14, which is adjournment, and we are adjourned.